Number 26, we have the right to equal access of employment opportunities and professional advancement. So everyone has the right to land a job, and everyone has the right to get promoted depending on their performance, of course, and their behavior inside the company, and should not be discriminated based on physical attributes or social status or any social orientation. So to continue, the labor force is the lifeblood of the country, and all workers have the right to a just compensation, dignified and humane working environment, job security, and the right to form and join unions and organizations. So let's do this little by little. Okay, so number one is salary. Salary is very important. It should be the kind of salary that is able to support the family, right? Ideally, nowadays we have a family of four, two children, or three, so five members of the family. So salary is very important. Dignified, the workplace should be good, and it's not detrimental or dangerous or harmful to the health of the individual. And job security, right to form unions. Now, this means that um, this is something that a lot of workers are missing. They thought that they could not form a group that would articulate and have the freedom of speech to give or raise a complaint about a wrong system or a certain leader in the company that they ought to complain uh, on, because it is very crucial, it's very vital that their side as workers should be listened to as well, so that changes, good changes might occur. So they have the right to go on strike and to actively participate in political life. Okay. So discrimination in the workplace, sexual harassment, slavery, exploitation, and child labor shall not be tolerated. So that's very clear. Moreover, overseas workers have the right to enjoy the basic rights accorded to workers in their respective host countries, consistent with international laws, labor laws, or standards. So this would mean that you're a Filipino, you work outside the country, it doesn't mean you lose your Filipino right. These rights, the government will still extend their help on you, to you, for whatever help they can give you, as long as it is consistent with the international labor laws or standards. So, okay, let's move on to number 27. Land, as a limited resource, bears a social function. The right to own land shall be limited to Filipinos and shall be guided by the principle of stewardship and subject to the demands of the common good. Peasants shall have the right to own land as they till through a genuine and agrarian, I'm sorry, a genuine agrarian reform program, including support services. Landowners shall also be protected from the land grabbers through effective legal and administrative measures. So let's start with the right to own land. Um, yeah, it is natural that Filipinos has the sole right to own lands, because if that right is given to the foreigners, what will happen is they might take over the whole land if possible. So nowadays we can see that system is kind of twisted, because we can see beaches owned by Koreans and Japanese, and restaurants and many other properties are owned by these foreigners. Why? Perhaps they have some kind of agreement with Filipinos through marriage or from settlement, for example, being used as an instrument so they can work around the laws, and that is very possible. And that's the perhaps the the means, the very means that they can do so that they can stay here. All right. So that is very bad. In some ways, yes, it is. Because imagine if they have such certain rights and they continue doing it, where would we Filipinos dwell? um, you know. And what's up next is that we become foreigners of our own land, a stranger to our own home. So the next is peasants shall have the right to own land. So those farmers, for example, who are working in farmlands, they have the right to own land as long as they follow the correct process under the program of the agrarian reform, the under the Department of the Agrarian Reform office. So my mother worked in the Department of Agrarian Reform, and she help in a lot of ways, and many times farmers, the tillers of the land, um, to become landowner themselves, because the landowner is now under the law wherein they can only own 5 hectares. What is excess of that 5 hectares, they have to give it away to the government, and it is for the government to give it away for those qualified and worthy workers of the land, or laborers or farmers. And also, the landowner themselves shall be protected from land grabbers. So perhaps the first thing they need to do is to have their land registered in the assessor's office and get a land title. That land title is a document that would protect you from any false documents that people may present to grab your land. So it is impossible then that the office in the government office, the assessor's office, will hold two land titles for two landowners for a single land, because that would mean war. So only one legitimate owner should own one parcel of land. Okay, number 28, fisher folk have the right to access to fishing grounds, to protection from foreign incursions and local large-scale commercial fishing business, to genuine aquatic reforms, and to preservation and protection of communal fishing grounds. So they have the right to fish to our inside our fishing territory. But what happens in those areas near the border, Scarborough Shoal and Spratly Islands and the like, the so-called China Sea, where we are still under our inside our fishing boundaries, but they were being attacked by the coastal guards uh, from China, and a lot of other um, bad things that happened has gone around, has been um, has been done to our fellow fishermen, our fellow Filipinos who were fishermen, um, wrongly was being done wrongly by those foreigners, especially the Chinese. And that is something, that's a right that they should have been protected. But the government perhaps, no, the government actually has no power over that for some reasons that we don't know. Okay, 29, we have the preferential right to the judicious cultivation, utilization, and preservation of our natural resources, which will ensure an ecological balance that can support and sustain the total physical and economic well-being of every person, family, and community. So this is about natural resources, the environment, not to destroy it, but to cultivate it for our own good. So any violations to that, of destroying the forest or any natural resources, would lead the person or the violator to imprisonment or a big fine. So number 30, the marginalized and vulnerable sectors. When we say marginalized, from the word margin, they are at the point wherein they are not so much attended to. They are not privileged. These are the poor people. These are the people who are working so hard, or having not much education and not much compensation, and they are not being treated equally in the face of society. So these sectors shall have preferential access control to credit and microfinance, and the right to skills and livelihood training, which shall contribute to the constant improvement of their lives. So many of them are business minded people. The problem is they don't have the capital. They should have such right as to gain help, to get help from the government to get some capital so that they can work on with their business. And this is beneficial to the country, and why not? We should do it. Now we go to collective rights. We have the right to self-determination. This right provides us with the freedom to develop ourselves as peoples, preserve our cultures, and retain our national identity. So, self determination is like self identity, and we have the right to protect it from anything that would try to change it, or to thwart it, or to misrepresent it, you know. And our people shall not be coerced into assimilation or absorption. No, assimilation is like to become similar, to change it, nor shall force evacuation, dislocation, and displacement resulting from development aggression and other state policies should be allowed. Displacement resulting from development aggression. Okay, so imagine you are living in a tribe. You are a tribe man or a woman or a child. And then some people would like to develop this certain piece of land. They want to make it a mall or a certain factory, and they are going to displace you to move you to your tribe to other place, something that is very terrible and terrifying. And these people have the rights not to be displaced, not to be evacuated, and they have the right that their culture and tradition be preserved. So we have the right to resist any form of political, economic, social, and cultural domination by resorting to any legitimate means. Let's go to number 32. We have the right to a clean, safe, and sustainable environment that supports an equitable equality of life. Ecological balance must be preserved in the pursuit of national development, because the capacity of our resources to continue supporting our daily needs is limited. For example, water. We need to preserve water. We need not to cut a lot of trees. We need to plant more trees so that those water resources would not go extinct or dysfunctional. Okay, and collectively, we have the intergenerational responsibility to protect, conserve, and develop our natural environment for the enjoyment of present and future generations of Filipinos. Okay, so anyone or any company or any group who are destroying it should be reported. Destroying our environment should be reported to the authorities so that they'd be stopped. We can preserve the beauty and the productivity of our land. Number 33, and perhaps this is the last one. Yes, it is. We have the right to a social order which is conducive to peace and development. It is the duty of the state to undertake a comprehensive peace process that reflects the sentiments, values, and principles important to all peoples of the Philippines. Therefore, it shall not be defined by the state alone, nor the different contending groups only, but by all peoples of the Philippines as one community. The promotion and protection of our rights must be geared towards international understanding, solidarity among peoples and nations, and friendship among all racial, ethnic, or religious groups. So one big example for this are those Moros, or the Muslims, or native Muslims living in Mindanao. Um, they have the rebel group Abu Sayyaf. But sad to say, even Abu Sayyaf uh, kills or destroys the lives of many Muslims there. and we wonder where they come from. Those Abu Sayyafs. They have the Moro National Liberation Front, Islamic National IL, Islamic Liberation Front, ILMF. Okay, those groups, military groups, uh, in history kept on fighting against the government, the military, the Philippine army, and it's a whole, it's a big history actually. It's a very sad history of a war against the two parties. And it says here that it should be the whole Filipino people who has to say in what to do to attain peace. And there should be a dialogue and settlement and more that is agreeable to both sides. Okay, in reality, I hope that will happen, but in reality, it's very hard to do because, you know, if we consider the Muslims, actually, many of them, if not all of them, in all history, once they settle in a certain land, they would grab that land for their own. They would take, uh, they would claim the land as their own, and that's even in their Quran. So, what can we do about it? Well, we will just continue doing what is right. We just need to continue doing what is right. If there is any attack or aggressions, there should be some the defense action towards them by our armed forces. So we're done. Epilogue. Let's read the epilogue. Human rights are universal, inalienable. Inalienable meaning cannot be estranged, cannot be taken away from the individual, except through some circumstances. Like if you are a convicted criminal, some of your rights, essential rights, are being taken away from you, like the right to go to any places, for example. They are dynamic, the human rights, and continue to evolve in response to the growing needs, concerns, and aspirations of individuals and communities. These rights are enriched in the course of the struggle of their full recognition. The human and people's rights affirmed in this declaration are wholly consistent with contemporary international standards. Nothing in this declaration shall be used to negate or deny any other rights, whether specified or inferred, found in national or international human rights instruments. Okay, so um, we are very lucky, we are very blessed to have such rights, actually. And according to the epilogue, this is the first paragraph, is that um, rights can evolve, and the rights that we have just tackled upon should not be eradicated and shall not be taken away. It can only be amplified or um, promoted or being it can be revised into a better one, but not essentially taken out from the list of the human rights here, from the people, taken away from the people. So the promotion of human rights and people's rights is pursued through individual and collective action. They are product or purposive struggle and are linked to the real conditions and uh, concerns linked to of the people. While much has been achieved, much remains to be done. In this new millennium, there will remain the need for human rights defenders so long as regressive regimes, systems, and structures exist that threaten to thwart our gains. So, having human rights is not enough. Having people to defend the rights should be enough. There should be a right number and good lawyers around, good judges, good leaders in the community, or ordinary people who know how to speak up for what is right, to stand up or defend for what is right. In our world today, more and more people have become aware and thus aspire to live in an environment that protects the universal standards of human rights. Human rights are a source of strength and power for people. They enable us to continue to work for peace, prosperity, progress, and sustainable development. The cause of human rights enlivens our commitment to the realizations of the fullness of life. This is our collective task as a people in solidarity with all the people of the world. Okay, so we end here, and I hope you learned a lot from this discussion. I'm doing a monologue, obviously, and you have no way of interrupting me and give or ask questions, and, so, and perhaps some ideas, bright ideas to be shared among your classmates. But anyway, if you have questions, just feel free to chat in our group chat, and I'll be giving you instructions on what to do with our discussions. Okay? So, okay, by the way, I can give the instruction right now. Yeah, okay. So, I would like you to make a written output. There are two questions. The first question is, uh, what is your impression of having to know that you have such human rights? But perhaps this question is very deep for you, so let me change it. What have you learned generally? Okay, what have you learned from this discussion in all of the 4 videos that I've sent you? What have you learned from this discussion? And the number 2 question is, what will you do if somebody violates your rights? What will you do if somebody violates your rights? Okay, so that's a written output, just written. You can send me personal message for those 2 outputs, to the answers of those 2 questions. I'm sorry, I kind of lost, getting lost. All right, and another is, okay, that's it. There's no other thing. I'm truly lost. Goodbye, class. Thanks.